Hello everyone, and welcome back to the BEC Esports Conference. My name is Alligator, and I have Pink by my side. We've been here before, we'll be here again, but we still have one more series for tonight. Isn't that right, my friend?
Yeah, we got one more ahead of us, and that's your school, University of Minnesota versus the University of Nebraska, and it's the 2 seed versus the 3 seed. So I'm expecting some fireworks here in this matchup.
Oh, you can expect way more than fireworks. So we were looking right before this into their previous matchup, into the roster and the subbing and the results. And let me tell you, we played them, 3 weeks ago? It was the very last game of the regular season. It was a 3-0 for the Gophers, but it was probably the closest sweep that I have seen in a very, very long time. It was, I believe, 4-3 in game 1, then 5-4 with a 3.5-minute overtime in game 2, and then 3-1, but tied at 1 apiece going into the last 30 seconds of game 3, and they were playing with a sub. So Nebraska, I feel like, could be the Cinderella of these West playoffs.
Look, Nebraska has had plenty of Cinderella stories in the past. They're a roster that you can never really count out. Purdue has been on the back end of doubting Nebraska in the past. Last year, they had a very viral post because Nebraska, they made local news in Nebraska because they beat Purdue in a reverse sweep in a different tournament. So, look, I never count out the Cornhuskers when it comes to playoff time and when it comes to these, real tight matches. So I know you're going to be cheering for Minnesota all the way. I'm going to have to give it to the Cornhuskers here. I want to see Nebraska do well. I want to see them move on to grand finals and see what this full roster, full powered can do against the Gophers.
Honestly, that's very valid. If we take a look at the West playoffs bracket for this BEC Fall 2024 semester, season, whatever you want to call it, you can see in the LCQ in the qualifying round, actually the Oregon Ducks took down the Wisconsin Badgers, and I had a little chat with some players behind the scenes. There were some allegations that Wisconsin's record may or may not have been a little bit fraudulent. So the situation is this: Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin all tied at a 5-2 record, 5 victories, 2 losses apiece. Minnesota's losses came to Wisconsin and UCLA. UCLA, of course, being the number 1 seed that almost went undefeated, but they threw in the last week. But there were allegations that Wisconsin's record was a bit fraudulent, and that Oregon would go through in the LCQ, and that did come true. So now that makes me question: are the Gophers going to suffer because they lost to Wisconsin, or are the Gophers going to be fine? Really don't know. You can see the other side of the bracket is set up in a very interesting way. The number 1 against the number 5 seed, unlike what we had in the East. But number 2 against number 3, like you said, very, very close. And all the starters are here, right? We have the full strength of both rosters.
Yeah, you got Minnesota with CFN Rad and Warpie. I believe I said that right. You can correct me. This is your team. And then Nebraska got Creed, Noe, and Promising. And again, the thing that you mentioned last time was that this wasn't the full strength Nebraska roster. So now, look, you got the loss to Wisconsin that makes Minnesota feel like a little bit sus, because losing to that roster that seemed not as strong as the record reflects isn't always great. And again, losing out in the LCQ doesn't feel fantastic either. But they have strong results everywhere else, so it kind of balances out. That's your cope. That's what I would be saying right now. But you know what? I think this Nebraska squad, they played with subs. They have a decent record as well. I think they'll be more than fine. And I think overall we're in for a very, very exciting matchup one way or another, however you cut it. But we're going to finally stop the talking and get into the gameplay. We're heading here into game number 1, Minnesota versus Nebraska in the semifinals. Only one will make it to the grand finals to face off either Oregon or UCLA. And it seems like Nebraska is going to be the ones to start off the scoring with Creed getting one right off the kickoff.
And if you couldn't tell which team was which, you are not alone. I am always a proponent of main color versus main color matchups, both in esports and in regular sports, conventional sports, but we do have alternate uniforms for a reason, and maybe a white side could have been helpful in this matchup. We're gonna have the Minnesota Golden Gophers in maroon and the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the red, and they both have a goal now. Warpie is going to get the equalizer for the Gophers, and if you can see the difference in the field, it is slightly more pinkish, slightly less dark in the Nebraska goal in the Nebraska side of the field. It's been 15-16 seconds in game one here. We've gotten 2 quick goals, so let's just reset and pretend nothing's happened.
Yeah, you know, just mental reset. It's 0-0, nothing happened, and chalk it up to 2 kickoff goals. Noe, oh, tight save right off that crossbar to pinch it out of his own net, and promising on that first goal that went, or second goal, I guess, in the game, but first one against Nebraska. Own goaled a little bit, but Noe, and keep it going here. It seems like it's going to be all offense to start this game off as they find a second one real fast.
Yeah, it's an all-out brawl. Coffin, the Minnesota captain, gets a piece of that ball. Actually, you can see it bounce off of the bottom of his car, and the defender, I believe it was Rad, just cannot read that one. Those are very tricky situations, but now the Gophers having to row back from behind. The thing is, and I can tell you this because I am very well acquainted with this squad, they do tend to have slow starts, and this is not cope. Minnesota, for I think many years now, is a team that has been known to me to have extremely slow starts, and then they get warmed up as it goes on. This iteration of the roster is new for 24-25 academic year, for the season, whatever you want to call it, and they have been trying to break that trend. The trend this semester actually has been they win game 1, then they lose game 2, then they win afterwards. So we'll see how much of that keeps going on here, because they usually don't find themselves down in the first game of the series, especially not almost by 2 goals right there. If Nebraska had gotten that to a cushion, it could have been dangerous for the Gophers, but they are going to be able to mount their counterattack of their own. Just 1 goal down.
Yeah. But it looks like there's just back and forth right now. There's been some opportunities, but we've kind of settled back into this more of a, I guess, a slow look as you expect. Again, it's game 1. These 2 teams have played each other before, but not this iteration of the Nebraska roster. And, you know, that's going to maybe throw up some question marks on like what you should be doing and how to play into it. What I can tell right now is that Minnesota is really bringing the physicality. I've seen a lot of demo chasing and a lot of demo attempts towards that third man. It hasn't resulted in a goal for them yet, but I'm sure we'll see net some positive results down the line.
It could result in positives down the line, and we start to see maybe a bit more of the physical game. I mentioned it in the previous series. It was MSU against OSU. This is a completely different region. This is the West, not the East, and gameplay is so different here. But I am always going to suggest that the physical game is the way to go. Those bumps, those demos are so underrated. They are the way to go. That infield pass, for example, it could have been successful just on its own. You put a demo, you put a bump in there, and it becomes exponentially more dangerous. Still, Nebraska, it appears that they don't need those. They have plenty of control on the side of the Gophers, who are just only now getting out of their own side of the field. And with 2 minutes counting down, Gophers maybe need to find some magic here if they don't want to be staring down the barrel of a 1-0 deficit in the series.
Yeah, they got to get some offense going here. It's been a lot towards their own net, not a lot the opposite way. And as I say that, another shot thrown towards the Gopher goal. But here's a passing play, but it's high. It goes over the crossbar. It was a really good opportunity, but that rocket of a shot just not on target whatsoever. Creed going to carry it up high. Can't get past Brad, so Noe taking it over, dropping it down, looking for anybody from Cornhusker side to rotate through, but everybody is going back. They want to hold on to this 1-goal lead and not let anything slip through the cracks.
Now, speaking of slipping through the cracks, the Gopher defense maybe slightly broken right there. You can see, I can tell you, Coffin, usually the last man back, the brick wall that the Gophers rely on most for the defense, but also an offensive threat of his own if he can get into the positions. The problem for the Gophers is they've gotten good looks. Like we said, they've gotten good shots, but now they're struggling to get out of their own half the same way it's happened before in this game. The problem is they're running out of time, and Noe is going to put the dagger in their back. 2-goal lead for the Cornhuskers, seemingly out of nowhere, but you could see it coming with that lengthy possession.
Yeah, I mean, running out of time, we're like running out of boost. There was nothing in the tank for any of those defenders, trying to just keep that one out of the net. But the boost starvation was fantastic from Nebraska, and that nets them their third goal, a security goal here, as they should be able to maybe close this one out. There's still 30 seconds left, but it's just more and more pressure mounting here. A shot towards the net. This one's going to be easily collected by Rad, but it will not get out of their own half. Coffin, again, just trying to find Warpie. It's very, very tough. It seems like every single time they jump, there's a Nebraska player right there with them.
Oh, that save in the nick of time for Creed was so crucial, because it's not going to happen here in game number 1, but I can tell you the Gophers are no strangers to coming back from behind. Less than 30 seconds in the game. For some teams it might be over, not for the Gophers, but like we said, it is not going to be the case for game number 1. Nebraska, they are going to take it. And if you take a look at the stats, the Gophers not looking too dapper. Only the 1 goal for Warpie coming early in the game. Coffin, Rat, not much more to write home about. On the other side, much more balanced across the sheet. Goals spread evenly, but Noe leading the way for the Cornhuskers as a clear-cut MVP.
And you can see a very, very stark difference in play style right away just off those stats. The demo count, I think it's 6-0. So Nebraska just playing this clean Rocket League, just looking for passes downfield and just trying to pepper the goal to find some opportunities off of rebounds. Meanwhile, Minnesota's just trying to tear their way through and find the demos to make some space, but they couldn't find it. They only had 4 shots, and that's not going to be enough to get it done unless you're shooting perfectly. And I mean, that's too much to ask for of these players. Realistically, I mean, that's not going to happen every single time. Okay, well,
yeah.
I don't know. What does Minnesota need to do here? You say that they like to go with these slow starts. What would be the adjustment for them?
Honestly, you touched, I think, on both the points. Shooting is one part. I mean, we saw during the game, kind of like that DJ Khaled meme, suffering from success. They got a very good look that could have put them tied at 2 apiece, but it was just a rocket of a shot. It went so high up onto the backboard that pretty much rebounded all the way into the Gopher half. I mean, yes, you always want to try to have as much power probably on your shots, but sometimes it's just not the time to do that. So maybe a bit better shot selection. The other thing is, yes, they did have 6 demos, but I believe only 2 of those were actually in offensive positions. The other 4 came in the defense, mostly from Rad, who led the way with 4 demos off his own. And if you're demoing, it's perfectly fine. I mean, I am always going to encourage players to demo in their defense, because it is not something that a lot of people do. But, you know, if you remove the attackers, there is no real danger to your net, right? But if you are getting the bulk of your demos on defense, that means that you are not using them for offense. And I think that's where the efforts for the Gophers need to be concentrated going deeper into this series. Now we do have Nebraska in the white, and this is a day and night difference. And the observing is going to be so much easier for those Noe goals if they do come through, because Rad, for the moment, saving the Gophers. But this low boost, you mentioned it, and that is another aspect that we have been seeing from the Gophers all semester long. The boost economy can get very, very dire at some points, and it does hurt them quite a bit. It has hurt them in game number 1, and it almost has hurt them already in game number 2.
Yeah, well, able to fend off that initial attack and coped decently well, but I mean, you can't be sitting on that back foot all game long. We saw what happened last game when that was the case. So they got to make some adjustments. They got to find some offense and see if they can do that. Rad up high, looking to drop this one down low. Look for the double. It was just a little bit away. I was so good, and I like the creativity. Rad now looking for a pass, trying to facilitate Warpie in the middle of the field. Just not enough in the tank to make anything happen. And flying past this next ball, and that's going to be an opportunity missed here for Minnesota early on.
Yeah, but you can see they are starting to cook. Their engines are starting to rev up. The question is, are they going to be able to find that success? And you look at that, it's one of those defensive demos that we're talking about, and they are able to get one more upfield. But it doesn't really get them anything. It is just what they need, the bare minimum, to get out of their own half. So we're going to need to see them start ramping up the speed, maybe start to get those goal line demos, because we know, I mean, we just saw Rad go for a crazy, I don't believe it was a flip reset double tap. If that goes in, that is one of the best goals that we have seen all day long. The problem is they got to put those on target. They got to put those on net. Until then, can't really speak of anything going well for the Gophers. That shot, though, promising. Has to keep it out of the net. Has to keep the danger out.
Yeah, it's going to result in a long clear, but Minnesota going to be able to maintain some pressure here. Maybe finally find their opening goal. Coffin throwing this one towards that back wall. Noe's able to reach it and gets a read as well. Pinch off the ground, and it reaches promising, looking for the challenge. Coffin gets right past him, double into the corner, trying to kick it out to a teammate. Maybe, no, it's just going to be Warpie going straight up. And off this back wall one more time. Players are up. That shot off the post, and the accuracy, the shooting is just not where it needs to be. Now Nebraska on the counterattack from the opposite corner. But that demo, again, going to relieve some pressure, and maybe, I don't know, it's just really back and forth right now.
It's really back and forth, but you can see the Gophers maybe trying to start to form something. They had an extended play on their offense, but now having to scramble back for the defense. Warpie once again trying to kick it out of his own half, and we've seen these Gopher plays all semester long. They put the ball up high on the backboard, is what I usually call a team double tap or a team triple tap. Even it catches defenses by surprise more than you realize, and it can be very effective. But like you said, it has to be put on target. Those shots need to be going in. Nebraska not very accurate on their own end as well, but they do have the series lead, so there is slightly less pressure on their shoulders as now they try to mount a 2-versus-1 counterattack, but nothing to write home about. There have been bubs, there have been demos on both sides of the field. Now the Cornhuskers is trying to get something going as we go into the last minute and a half of gameplay here. Game number 2. I would not be surprised whatsoever to see an overtime tied at 0-0, perhaps even tied at 1-1 if anyone can find goals. There is a demo in the defense for the Gophers. Where's the redirect? Is it going to be there? No, it's not. 3 attempts. Wow. Where are the defenders? Where is the attack in the defense? I don't even know what's going on. The Gophers, they had 3 Nebraska players committing, and they could still not get it out their own half. What is going on?
The Cornhuskers just, I don't know. All 3 players go. Nobody's able to find the net. And oh my, that one almost slipped in randomly from Warpie. Look, Minnesota lucky to be still on even footing right now. I think that's an opportunity you're going to really want back if you're Nebraska. Maybe this one will kick across Rad, with a great save. And so we stay even here. 30 seconds left. And again, we're keeping this 0-0 scoreline. We're talking about OT, and we may see it. Promising to try to change that. That pass goes across net. It's shot towards, but saved away for now. And Coffin finally able to get this ball at least to midfield. Buy his team a little bit more time, fill up their boost tanks before they go on the attack in these last 7 seconds. Coffin in the corner, carrying it, throwing it towards that back wall, looking to get past Noe. How? That should have been it. I feel like that was it, but the ball's still up. It's going to be a shot towards...
Oh
okay.
My goodness.
Well, somehow we're in overtime. It's game 2, and...
That's...
No. Oh
That's
my...
it.
What?
That's a golden Gopher goal. Warpie claims it in overtime. And the bump from behind, promising, almost putting it into his own net. And there it is, tied at 1 apiece.
What did I just watch, man? What was that? What was that? Look. All right. Look. Nebraska sent 3, missed the net 3 times. Open net for Minnesota. They can't make it. Nebraska can't find that final pass. And then all of a sudden, we're having promising bumping warp pie into the ball to score on his own goal and lose in overtime. I mean, that's Rocket League for you, I guess. And I mean, the Gophers will take that one. All right, well, an untraditional sequence of events. I don't think that's normally how you find a game win, but we're tied up in the series, and that's all that really matters.
Exactly. I mean, that was one of the Rocket League games of all time. You know?
Yeah,
that's what we can say. It was certainly one of the games of all time. I was gonna say the Gophers have been uncharacteristically inaccurate in offense. I 100% believe that maybe 80-90% of the shots that they missed in game 2 would usually go in. The thing is, the Cornhuskers were also uncharacteristically inaccurate in game number 2. That could have easily been like what they did during the regular season, like 5-4 into overtime. It just didn't happen to be. And honestly, the series being tied at 1 apiece after those 2 games feels like the fairest result that we could have ever gotten. Honestly, this turns into a best of 3, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Look, look, these 2 teams are seated right next to each other, and they're playing like, you know, they're at an even level. But I mean, if they're gonna keep putting me through heart attacks like this, it's gonna be a very long best of 5. For both teams' sake and for their mental, I hope they start hitting these shots a little bit more consistently, because it's not been great shooting so far. As I say that one, that one just goes off the post. So we're back to ground zero. It's starting all over again.
Yeah, instead of Big Ten West football, we get Big Ten West Rocket League. For the really big Big Ten football fans, you know what I'm talking about. It is a very special type of gameplay down in the football field. We're seeing a very special type of gameplay here in the server. I think it's a pretty good equivalence. But like you said, Nebraska, with the majority of the pressure, still can't get anything on target. The post being a good defender for the Golden Gophers, who haven't been able to stifle this pressure from the Nebraska side. This is one of the first times that we're seeing them out of that maroon side of the field in the entirety of game 3, almost a minute and a half into the game. The thing is, they get a couple good looks, and if it weren't for that demo from Noe, it could have been a very dangerous infield pass. The Cornhuskers, though, they're able to reset. The Gophers trying to find something, trying to find the cracks in the Nebraska armor. That might have been a costly miss from Rad, but the other defenders come in to help, and you can see if the Gophers start to get going, they are not bad whatsoever. There's the bump, almost on target, but the post this time, the crossbar saving the Nebraska team, still tied at 0 apiece, and time ticks oh so fast when there is all this action going on.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of gameplay, not a lot of goals being scored, and a lot of shots going off the post again. It just seems like the same story, just a different game, and it's not, I don't know, it feels tough. These teams are really trying to find any opportunity, but as soon as they have that half chance, they just can't bring it home. And I feel like whoever scores the first goal in this one is probably going to take it home, because, I mean, let's be honest here, it's a goal drought, at least for Nebraska. And even the one that Minnesota scored was kind of a fluke. So
bold of you to assume that any goals will be scored. I mean, this has all the markings to be an extremely similar game to game number 2, if you ask me.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, that challenge from Mad looked like it could have been threatening, but again, crossbar, fantastic defense. I mean, you got to give it a 10 out of 10 here. It's been really showing up for both sides.
Yeah, both sides of the field as well, I was gonna say.
But oh my, that one just going off the
post.
We got to make sure any Bacchus mod plugins on right now. We got like the oh my gosh,
the net blocker.
Yeah, right. Like, it just doesn't seem like the ball wants to find the back of the net, but it's got to have to happen. Otherwise, we're gonna be here for quite a long time. But there's still a minute and 30 seconds left in this game 3, and a lot can happen. And here's a shot that's promising towards that, but promising is the one who saves it away.
Yeah, I don't understand how Nebraska has a double commit on that right corner of the field, and then like 3 seconds after there's a Gopher shot, and there are 2 players double committing on the goal line. Like, these players simultaneously have 1,000 boost and no boost whatsoever. They are teleporting through the field. This is madness. This is chaos, and I love it. This is peak big esports conference gameplay. I mean, is it the cleanest? Maybe not necessarily. It's certainly not pro level play, but we wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, this is still some of the highest level of gameplay that a lot of us are ever going to see, let alone play. Oh. And the Gophers with a great demo attempt with a shot right there, but the defense from Noe is stalwart as we go into the last 20 seconds of game 3. This could be it if Warpie gets it in, and that's rad with it. Happen. The Gophers had been knocking on the door for quite a while now, and with mere seconds on the clock, they are going to put Nebraska against the ropes.
Oh my gosh. Well, the crossbar tried to keep one more out, but Rad said, no more of this. I'm done. We're putting this one in the back of the net, and slams it home. So back into the last 15 seconds, Nebraska needs to respond right away, or they're going to be sitting on match point. And it's going to be pretty difficult for them to fight back. This one, dangerous in front of net. It's passed across, but it's down on the ground. And Coffin just going to let it die. And there it is. 2 games in a row. And now 1 game away from a trip to the grand finals. Minnesota, finding their way through these tough games.
Whew, finding their way is generous, I'd say. Somehow, some way, we have arrived to game 4. We'll just put it like that. Game 1 was the last bit of sanity. I think the gods of Rocket League, just forgot to turn up for this series, and so we still had the remnants of that MSU versus OSU series in the East. It was all nice. It was all peaceful. It was all tranquil. Game 2, the gods of Rocket League, big esports conference West. They showed up. They said it's time for a chaos. Let chaos reign. And there we have it. 2 back-to-back games with a 1-0 scoreline. I mean, this is... I don't want to call it art. It is some form of art.
Yes,
it's not for everyone, but it is certainly something.
Look,
we'll leave it at that.
I'm usually pretty critical of Rocket League in the West, but what I can tell you is that it's been super entertaining, as messy and as chaotic as it's been. So I get it why you're a fan. I mean, this has been a whole lot of fun, but there's a chance for Minnesota to bring it and end it all right here. And we saw that Purdue took it over Maryland in game 4, and that was the 2-3 matchup in the East, and maybe that's gonna go this way here in the West. And again, off the kickoff, we're just finding the post. Just Nebraska continues the shooting drought. It's been over 10 minutes since they last scored a goal. It's just so tough right now for them.
I mean, as a Gopher fan, I am delighted that did not go in. As a neutral caster, or as neutral as I can be, that is devastating for Nebraska. I genuinely thought that was going to be their goal. It was effectively an open net, and they just shoot it wide. I mean, that is the kind of moment that you look back on if you lose the series and kick yourself for missing. Hopefully, I mean, again, as an unbiased caster, hopefully it won't come back to bite Nebraska. As a Minnesota fan, yes, of course, hopefully it will come back to bite them. But like we've been saying, uncharacteristically inaccurate. The Gophers once again having to dispel all this offensive pressure from the Cornhuskers, but being able to do so somewhat successfully with the help of the woodwork.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't deliver the final product, then you're not going to find success on this field. And that back pass is a little ambitious. Noe just able to find a touch, and Creed able to cope decently well. But that loses all that pressure that Nebraska was building. It allows Coffin and the rest of Minnesota to start on the attack. And here comes Warpie making an effort. And Rad follows through, and it's a good save in the top corner. But I'm not sure what Warpie was doing there. They did an attempt. It was an attempt.
That is peak West gameplay, let me tell you. Just Warpeye flying through and then Rad actually getting the ball. You see Warpeye flying through and it makes you doubt what in the Midwest is he doing? But then you see Rad get to the ball and you think, wait, was this all just a super elaborate fake? And you'll never know. That's the best part of this chaos, of this madness. And you know what? I have been losing not just my voice, but also my mind all semester long in the Gopher Esports broadcast. And I am so delighted that I can keep doing this on this BEC broadcast because there is nothing like this. You know, sometimes you want clinical gameplay, you want perfect Rocket League, and we already had our fair share of that. We had MSU playing earlier. Now it's down in the trenches, it's down where it gets ugly, and you know, everyone wants to see things get ugly from time to time. You want to see these two behemoths of Rocket League because they are extremely good at Rocket League, much better than 99.9% of the Rocket League player population, but just seeing them go punch for punch down in the mud, blow for blow, there is something magical about it. And as we go into the last 2 minutes of this game 4 that could potentially be the last one of the series, no goals have been scored, but the Gophers, they are trying their darndest.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of threatening passes off this back wall in just this last minute alone. Rad not able to deliver the final product, but I mean, it's getting pretty scary. That long clear from Promising, though, will maybe slow things down. I think there's a demo on the back end, so no attack can mount from Nebraska, but with a minute and 30 seconds left, they gotta get something going here, and it might come the way of Creed. No, Rad sitting on that top corner, able to stop that shot, and with Nebraska kind of sitting on empty here, I think that's all they're gonna have right now.
Yeah, and credit to the Gophers defense. You know, we've been clowning a lot, and yes, it has to be said. I mean, there are opportunities that have been missed that are completely unexplainable, but the Gophers have been solid on defense, and that's exactly what I like about them. Yes, they do have those slow starts from time to time, but when they get into the groove, they are actually a pretty solid team. Maybe defense isn't their strong suit, but when they need to hunker down, they are able to do so, and we've been seeing that for the better part of 3 games now, and that's the thing! Warpeye just gets it done in the blink of an eye. If they're able to hold on strong on the defense, they will be able to get it done eventually in the offense. Creed, and I believe that was Noe, they're just not able to get it out. Warpeye just taps it in, forces it through with 45 seconds remaining. I mean, 3 games in a row where we've had the Gophers score with under a minute. Game 2, it was, what, 10 seconds maybe into overtime. Game 3, it was with 20 seconds remaining in regulation. Now Game 4, it's with 40 and change remaining in regulation. But now the demos are just too good from the Gophers. And Warpeye's gonna get his brace with 29 seconds remaining. Is this the dagger?
Yes, I think the answer is yes, because again, Nebraska, it's been almost 17 minutes since you last scored, and trying to ask for 2 goals in 30 seconds might be very difficult. Oh. And wow, Warpeye getting it done on both sides of the field, shutting the door on Nebraska and shutting the door on the Cornhuskers season as the last 15 seconds of this match wind down. A third might be thrown up. Nope, Promising able to stop that. Never mind. Warpeye, get your hat trick, lad. You've been doing fantastic in this game. And yeah, it's all but done here for the Gophers.
Yeah, and you know, it is truly heartbreaking for Nebraska, both from a biased and an unbiased perspective. They've played some amazing Rocket League today, but I guess that's just what happens on any given day. It is the number 2 seed versus the number 3 seed. The Gophers show why they were so high up in the standings, why they played teams like UCLA so close, why they took them to series point, because they have those X factor players. It doesn't matter who it's going to be. It can be Warpie, it can be Coffin, it can be Rad, but at any given point, one of them will step up and say, hey, it's time to win. This time it was Warpie, like you said, getting it done on both ends of the field, gets a hat trick, gets the crucial save that effectively killed Nebraska's hopes to even sending that game to overtime, gets the series victory for the Gophers. But really, all you can say is, well done. GG to both teams. If both could have won, I would have definitely wanted that for all 6 players, because they all deserve, there's those memes about like, I hope both teams lose. In this case, it's the exact opposite. I wish both teams could have won, because they both really deserved it.
Yeah, it was just a lot of tenacity and strong will shown on the field, and Minnesota just able to win that battle of wills. Because let's be honest, it wasn't the prettiest Rocket League. Neither team was playing, I would say, at their peak. But when you're in those scenarios, you just got to do what you can to get through at the end of the day. And that's all that Minnesota had to do, and they did it well enough. So they're going to have a date with Destiny, a date in the grand finals. Not sure exactly who we're playing yet. We're going to find out soon. I would assume it's going to be UCLA. I've only heard positive things from you and everybody else that's talked about the West. And look, I love the Oregon Ducks. I love their social media. It's the funniest thing ever. But I don't know if your Rocket League team is going to be able to show up today. And if you do, congrats to you, because it's going to be real difficult. But going over the rest of this bracket here, we see that Nebraska will move on to that third, fourth place match, either play Oregon or UCLA. Minnesota in that final spot. We don't know the date and times of those matches yet. That's going to be based on what the player availability is. We are heading into finals week for all these schools. And of course, we are a college esport, and the keyword is college. You are a student athlete, student first. Got to make sure you finish those studies and finish off the semester strong. So don't want to interfere with any of that.
Exactly. Well, like we said, I was gonna say, yes, like you said, UCLA would be the rational take, and obviously, UCLA 6-1. I mean, they only lost the one because they played with 3 subs in the last week against Wisconsin. If they played the starters, I think everyone knows they would have gone 7-0 undefeated. The thing is, I was going in to check the results, see, what the regular season, what the 3-0 sweep against Oregon was. They went to 5 games in the first week of the season.
Okay.
That is Oregon, who was fighting for their lives in the last week of the season just to make the playoffs as a number 5 seed. And you're telling me there is a real chance that they take down UCLA? I don't even know if I would want that for the Gophers, because the Gophers, they beat Oregon, I believe, 3-1 during the regular season. And of course, if you've won the matchup before, you'd want it to happen again, right? But if they beat the boogeyman of the entire division, what does that say about a potential matchup?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, if Oregon gets that win, obviously they're going to be feeling like the greatest team on planet Earth, and that's a lot of confidence that I wouldn't want to be facing. Maybe you do want to run into the favorites in UCLA, and maybe they get that complacency, and then they just think they're going to be able to take it home, and you can take advantage of that. But only time will tell. And again, you'll be able to figure that out when you get to watch these matches next week. Again, we don't have the specific date and time yet, so make sure you follow us on Twitter, X.com, I guess now, and keep up with the updates as we let you know, because you don't want to miss these grand finals matchups in both the East and the West.
Exactly. That is going to be it for us for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, of course, to all the viewers. You make this possible. We wouldn't be able to do what we love without you. Thank you so much to everyone behind the scenes, to both teams, of course, for playing and giving us this wonderful Rocket League. To everyone in the production side, wonderful Kevin Palmer, for producing this series and bringing it to you. And for everyone really at BEC that makes it possible. That includes You, Pink, of course, fantastic job today. And I'll give some props to myself, but that is enough yapping for us for today. Make sure you get some good rest to go into the end of the week and kick some butt, because we will be back with the grand finals for both the East and the West divisions, hopefully next week at the same time for the East and for the West. Like we said, we have one final confirmed. It is Esports at MSU against Purdue. Here on the West, we have the University of Minnesota against a mysterious opponent, UCLA or Oregon. We don't know. We will find out when we come back. But for now, thank you so much to everyone. Goodbye and good night.